gravity, karma, and the first law of thermodynamics. No energy is created or destroyed, only exchanged or recycled. So, because of this and knowing this, I decided to permanently incorporate it into my life by the lesson of love. Usually the best learning lessons come from love, right? So let me give a little background. I grew up in a highly musical household. My mom was a musician and performer, growing up in a Jamaican household, and my father was a musician and performer as well. And he still is in a band. He's actually in a U2 tribute band. If you know the band U2, give me a little shout. You know it? All right. So he was actually one of the first bands to ever perform on stage with U2, on stage for 60,000 people in Toronto. So naturally, I was a performer myself, and I never felt scared to be on stage or perform in front of people, especially as a child. I did singing, dancing, acting, piano, anything I could do, I did it. And I also had a real love for the environment and for all living things, including plants, animals, trees, anything. Anything I could get my hands dirty on, I would do, and I'm still the same way. But things started to shift as I grew up. You know, I think it was reality. The pressures of being a young biracial woman in this world, they kind of spell out what it means to be you for you already. And the pressures of being in a white-dominated city like Toronto, also patriarchal, it was very hard, especially as an artist. So I tried to dilute who I was, and I started to doubt being the extroverted, outgoing, outspoken person that I naturally was as a child. But this started to backfire on me because the universe has a way of snapping you back into shape no matter how hard you try to fight it. I had loved for the first time. Oh, Jesus. And loving at 18 is as melodramatic as you see in the movies. But you never really notice the cliches until you grow out of them, right? So the story is played out tons of times. Boy meets girl, boy is stupid and break girl heart, and then whatever, right? And to tell my story, it would take all night, and it would take a whole heap of drinks, because Jesus. Whew. But on the other side is a lesson that I learned that I want to share with you today. Basically, when I came out of love, I was heartbroken, I wanted to be cold, I wanted to be untrusting, I didn't want to trust anybody ever again. But there was a lesson to be learned from that. When I started to ignore the fact that I could do music and could pursue music was when I started to miss the joys in my life. But I replaced it with something else. I started my education. The women in my life had always taught me that as a woman, your worth resided from your education, because my pretty face could only take me so far. And that's what my grandmothers had told me. So I pursued a degree in environmental science and political science at the University of Toronto, and I continue my studies at the University of West Indies now. And I had been ignoring my musical joys, and I felt that gap within me. And along this healing line, I had been reminded of the quote, "You reap what you sow." And it made me remind myself that if I wanted to live the life that I wanted to live, I would have to work for it. And that's a hard thing to realize, you know, that you have the responsibility for your own happiness. But in 2018, I started to take myself and my joys more seriously. The songs that I'd written in privacy that I never showed anybody ever, I decided to start developing them. I taught myself how to use production software, recording programming, and engineering all within a year. And what amounted out of it was an 8-song EP titled Nothing Less. And I released that on January 25th, 2019. Thank you. So that was my biggest project, and that changed my life forever. In the span of a year, I had performed my music in front of people for the first time. I had performed all over the city of Toronto, acted in music videos, modeled for campaigns, for brands, and did all the things that I had been once dreaming of doing as a kid. So it was all coming into fruition in those moments. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to perform in London, England, New York City, and here in Kingston, Jamaica. So what the lesson of all this has taught me is that there are dualities that you need to express and you need to embrace in yourself. And that if you want to attract a certain type of energy, you have to be that energy. The universe loves those that love its children, so it's important that you love yourself. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned from all of this. And you know, the fears of being multifaceted and being outgoing and extra, as the youth like to call it, it was all just fears of shaking the foundations that no longer served me. And I realized that this power to address those parts of me and to express them had a power to invoke that of other people. So my lesson, and the lesson that I hope to teach you tonight, is to recognize that power, because I truly believe that we all have the ability to make any moment mean something to ourselves and to other people. So if there's something to leave with tonight, is to know that you have that power and to reap the seeds that you sow. Thank you.